Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So this month's, I don't know what that meant.
Yeah, can't hear you. Move it towards your face. There you go.
I was trying to, what's that mean? This month's theme was living in color. And most of what I'll be saying today comes right out of the CSL script. So I won't be naming my sources unless that's different, so as I go through this. And I like to kind of summarize, do a quick summary of what we covered this month, and then before we get into the subject for this week. So, Ernest Holmes said, "It should be considered right to live and to enjoy living. To be well, happy, and to express freedom is to be in accord with divine law and wisdom." End quote. I learned the acronym for the whole of the Pride, the latest acronym for the whole of the Pride communities this month, which is 2S LGBTQIA. And that stands for two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, and asexual. Now, when I refer to that in this talk, I'll say the Pride communities, because that's a little too much for my mouth to handle. But it is interesting to see how that has evolved and expanded. And there aren't too many people that are not included in that. It's a wide spectrum. So these communities have served as an example of the beauty of self-expression despite facing persecution, violence, prison, simply for being who they are. And still, we persist. And week 2, do what you want to do. And that quote reminded me of one of my personal rules, is that I never do anything that I don't want to do. Now that sounds a little odd. It doesn't mean that I don't do things that I initially thought I didn't want to do. It's just that if I do that, whatever that is, I change my mind about it before I do it, or I just don't do it. So do what you want to do. But that really wasn't what that week's talk was about, but I couldn't help but bringing that up. Holmes writes, "Nothing is real unless we make it real. Refuse to receive anyone's condemnation. In the independence of your own mentality, believe and feel that you are wonderful. This is not conceit. This is simply the truth." So week 3, it's never too late and it's never too early. And we honored Juneteenth. It's never too late to celebrate the freedom we are currently experiencing and advocating for within all of our communities. We honor not just an historical event, but a divine truth, that every human being is endowed with the right to be free. Let us remember that freedom is not just a destination, it is a daily journey. Each act of kindness, each step towards justice, each moment of standing in solidarity with those who are oppressed brings us closer together into the fullness of freedom of our spiritual magnificence. Let us become beacons of hope and agents of change. By acknowledging the struggles and the triumphs of all communities, we begin to dismantle the barriers created by ignorance and prejudice. To truly practice oneness, it's important to remember it's never too late and it's never too soon to educate ourselves and embrace the full spectrum of our shared history. Week 4, we said we're still together. We are invited to explore the power of vulnerability and connection, and to celebrate both our unity and our diversity. Recognizing our divine connection often requires vulnerability and courage to support one another as we share our truths. While we may not always agree, each challenge presents us an opportunity to practice emotional maturity, heal our own trauma, and use our voices to advocate for ourselves and others. And when we're feeling frustrated at the pace of cultural evolution, nobody's ever felt that way, have they? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words. This is a favorite quote. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it always bends towards justice. So love will always win. It may take a little longer than we thought. And so this week's topic is resilience, or that's the key word, resilience, through all of it. So Alice Walker is the author of The Color Purple. She's the first African-American woman to win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1982. And I would like to recite some of her quotes. Beautiful stuff. Humans who persist in trying to transform the conditions of life are remarkably resilient. We experience so much loss, pain, hardship, attack, and we persist. Resilience is in our nature, and we recover from things that we would be justified in giving up over again and again. One core practice of transforming the conditions that make justice, it is transforming the conditions that make injustice possible. Mary's going to say a little bit more about that, but something about, I am made of stardust. I'm not afraid of what I came here to do. Sometimes the greatest act of revolution is self-expression. Spirit empowers us to be resilient, to bounce back from setbacks, and to thrive in the face of adversity. The Spirit doesn't just give us life, it is the power of life itself. Just like energy, which cannot be transformed or destroyed, but only transformed, we are made up of the divine energy of life. The ballroom scene in New York City started as a defiant expression of joy within the Pride communities. And let's take inspiration from their vibrant culture.
Yes.
Spiritually, resilience is the ability to face challenges with grace, rise above obstacles, and keep moving forward, no matter what the odds. Martha Gellhorn, who is an American author and a war correspondent who passed from the planet in 1998, wrote, "People often say with pride, 'I'm not interested in politics.' They may as well say, 'I'm not interested in my standard of living, my health, my job, my rights, my freedom, my future, or any future.'" If we mean to keep any control over our world and our lives, we must be interested in politics. End quote. And Marianne Williamson says something almost the same, it's very similar, and I happen to very much agree with that. And misinformation can only be countered by continuous attention to current events. That's the only way that we can know, and not just continuous attention, but to credible sources. So if we're paying attention all the time, we can see when someone else is saying something that is not true. If you're not paying attention, if you don't care about politics, you don't know. And when you hear something that doesn't make any sense, you don't have any way of making sense of it. So that's how I see things. I understand others see it differently, and that's, okay. So I'm going to end with a statement put out by CSL publicly in the beginning of June by our spiritual leader, Dr. Reverend Soni Cantrell Smith. So this is not my personal opinion, although I do agree with it, but I think I did this last year, that CSL has stands on social issues, and here it is. We, the Centers for Spiritual Living, are profoundly concerned by the recent ice raids in Los Angeles and the President's subsequent deployment of National Guard troops and the Marines. While we all agree that sound and rational immigration policy is important, I'm going to restate that. We all agree that sound and rational immigration policy is important. These actions were taken without the consent of the California governor. These events have inflicted deep wounds on the communities already living under fear and uncertainty. At the heart of Science of Mind is the recognition that every individual is a divine expression, deserving of dignity, respect, and justice. No clapping? Okay. Recent events highlight a fundamental injustice against humanity. During workplace raids and unchecked deportations, some occurring without warrants or legal representation, due process has been openly ignored. Many detainees, including longtime residents and parents, are being kept in crowded, inhumane conditions without basic necessities. Some have been deported under misleading circumstances, lacking proper paperwork altogether. Dr. Ernest Holmes challenges us. All the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, and then act as if it were true. Let these words inspire moral courage and wise action. The raids and military-style response do not express life, peace, or justice. Instead, they sow terror, erode trust, and trample on essential constitutional rights that safeguard every a person's humanity. The use of military force against civilians exercising peaceful protest and the absence of legal protections are profoundly inconsistent with the science of mind and the spirit of our nation. We stand in solidarity with all those who affirm that no person should be deprived of their rights or be torn from their families without due process. Thank you. In the face of this crisis, we call upon the spiritual seekers and all people of goodwill to turn thought and prayer into compassionate action. We can uphold the process by demanding legal representation, transparency, and accountability for all. We can protect the vulnerable by supporting immigrant families and those unjustly targeted. We can pursue justice through peace by engaging in nonviolent advocacy that honors human dignity. True peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of justice, equality, respect, and the recognition of our shared human dignity. In this moment, let us act from the full power of our spiritual insight. As Holmes reminds us, we carry divine potential to uplift and heal. Let that power guide our minds, words, and deeds. Remember that CSL's definition of sacred activism is the intersection where consciousness becomes action, where prayer becomes movement, and where spiritual principle becomes practice. Sacred activism is the activity of bringing our CSL global vision to reality. And that's all I got.